I'm going to take a quick look at this old Magnavox TV. It's obsolete in that it can't do current TV standards for over-the-air antenna, but it can still work as a monitor. It can take S video and composite video. I actually just want it for composite video for a monitor for my security system, so I just want to have a security camera on it. And my parents gave up on it a number of years ago. It's been sitting around here collecting dust. They gave up on it because it had no audio anymore. Can't remember if the audio was intermittent or just plain gone. It was never great audio, of course, in these little things, but I don't know, it's not worth the big effort. It's obsolete, and I can bypass the audio, you know, pretty easily anyway, and have a standalone audio. Old computer speaker or something like that would do fine. So I'm not going to put much time into it. I just want to make sure there's nothing obvious inside that I can find out and maybe repair, like a broken wire to a speaker or something really simple. So far, I removed some long, coarse plastic screws for plastic. You know, coarse threaded Philip. 1, 2, and then 3 from here. And then from here and here, some short machine screws. And then 4 machine screws. Well, actually, first was these 4 machine screws that held that big, you know, mount on. I'm probably not going to reuse that mount. I'm going to get an arm mount. I thought I bought one actually for this, but if I didn't, I'll end up buying another one. I don't really need audio. It'd be kind of nice. The camera does have audio that I want to use this for. So the only thing that's really holding is right here, and I think I got to pry loose this little, whatever it is, tuner, I guess. And that's pretty cool. Figured out eventually all I had to do was pry to get these tabs free. It looks like they'd slide past it if I could slide the module over. I didn't know that I'd be unplugging this at the same time, but that's what I was doing, unplugging this nice DB, whatever it is, 13 or 19 and 3 rows in there. It's kind of solidly made. It's kind of nice. You get it out, pull it out this way, it frees the connector and it frees the tabs that hold it in. And now let's see if that'll free it up. Yep, looks like it's going to be free. Cool. Something holding me on. That's a dust. Wow, what is this little thing? Oh, it's for the controls, I guess. I have to unplug this. Cool. And that was just, for all these controls, just 2 wires. So that's some kind of one-wire interface type deal. Interesting. So this is just a, well, no, it goes to here and here. Is there any kind of electronics to decode anything? Maybe on this board. Interesting. Do all that with, control both those boards with one little 2-wire interface. Cool. Wow, they're tiny if they're, that's all they are for speakers, these little things. Are you kidding me? Wow, all that space and that's all I put in there? Are you kidding me? That's all we got for speakers, but it looks like it's stereo speakers, so it's not something like a speaker wire. It's going to be something with the audio module or some kind of interconnect. Maybe I'll take it apart a little further, see what I can see. It's not optimistic at this point. It took quite a bit to get to this level. I had to first loosen the screws around this drive and pull this DVD drive off to the side a little bit. The connectors, once you get it apart and loose, aren't really apparent inside of here. I see there's connectors in here I could all take apart and try to avoid that. You know, at this point, I just want to make sure that no one pushed something into the little switch inside the jack here. Dumb stuff like that. Maybe reseat the speaker connectors if I can find them. And trace back where the speaker connector goes. You've got toroids on all this stuff to keep interference out. Make sure I don't see anything obvious. I've already gone further than I thought I'd go. I didn't really want to take it apart this far. A lot of screws, a lot of prying to get this thing off. Screws, screw, screw, screw. Then these screws were hidden. Screw, screw. You know, by this thing I had, after I had it slid out. Hidden screws, screw, screw. Those 2 have to go out. Different screws and everything else too. That's probably my audio module right there. These are probably the 2 speaker jacks. Huh. I hope that baby didn't fry. I wonder. I'm gonna have to, I guess at this point, see if I can see voltage to it and everything else. Oh, what have I got myself into? I didn't want to go this far, but God, could I even find this chip? Would it be worth the effort to do that? Yeah, Jet, recommend a bigger chip. Stronger, better, beef up the power supply. That can't be done. It's 12-volt input to the whole unit. It's kind of nice how it was all built. It was built very strong. I wonder if Magnavox themselves built this, or if it's one of those deals where they just buy stuff from different Chinese vendors. But I'm kind of impressed with the build quality, mechanical build quality anyway. And even electrical, you know, they got all these ferrites and everything else in here. They didn't cut a lot of corners. Everything's bound down nicely, you know. This thing sat in one place in a kitchen, so I don't know why the audio just went out on its own. It's probably going to be something. It's going to be on. I guess I'm going to go as far as pulling this board out even and looking at the solder joints. And I see even the power switches on that one wire interface. There's got to be some electronics in this board because I don't see anything on this board. But just one wire. I mean, there's 2 pins. One's ground. Carries all these buttons, including power, and including the controls for the DVD. Pretty amazing. I suppose it could just be a ladder of resistor values. There's a lot of buttons to do that with, though. I would think it'd just be a one-wire interface, you know, digital interface, but I don't really want to take this piece apart. It's kind of glued in place. I don't really want to screw with it. Probably never get it back. Because I don't really see any guts, any electronics on these boards. Alien technology. This connector by this chip, I figured it has to be the audio chip, and this has to be the speakers without tearing all that apart. So I pulled this out, put the ohmmeter across it, and indeed I do hear the speaker click. So I know that's where it goes, without even pulling it apart. I have to check the other speaker just for yucks. And use these old piece of, weird. The speaker oscillates like a buzzer. That speaker might be bad on the one side here. Currently the right side. Actually buzzed. I'm just curious. Anyway, it might be just my funky connections. When I pulled this connector out of its socket, well, the socket came with it, so I got to try to rock this shell on to the bare pins very carefully. Hopefully they're all coming through. I better look. Well, it's too late now. Yeah, that whole bottom shell came up with the... didn't unplug, it came up with it, leaving just the pins sticking out of the board. Looks like I got all pins left. They made it. Some of the soldering looks a little bit flaky around this chip. I may look at that more carefully. I don't know about pulling this board out. Some of these wires in this look really flaky. Plus, I'll be stressing these too. Well, I could just hinge it, I guess, if these are long enough. If these are tight, I really hate to mess with that. I presume that goes to the screen. I'm not sure what to think about some of the connections on this. I'd like to show you through the loop here, but it doesn't work. Ooh, now it's working briefly. Some of those metal connections look like they never had any solder on them. I mean, look careful and more careful, and that's just bare copper around those pins. So I guess I'm going to try to rub a little Scotch-Brite down there and then put a bunch of rosin down there and try to touch those all up. I really didn't want to do it, but I ended up pulling that whole PC board out. Didn't want to mess with this little connector at all. I hope it comes back together okay. A lot of little connectors. These connectors are so fragile you hate to even think with them. It's almost like, what's the point of having a connector if they're going to be that fragile? But I think I got it off in one piece. I was really getting worried because there's 2 pins that I couldn't solder on this chip very well. And the one just sucked all the heat away from my iron. So the solution there is to loosen the heatsink up. But the nuts are on the top side, so I really couldn't get it tight again if I did that. So that's one of the reasons I had to pull it. Also, the amount of time I was spending on these 2 pins with the iron trying to heat them up, I was starting to worry that I might have an icicle forming on the back side of the board. You know, solder running down, making a big long solder icicle, which didn't happen. The underside looks pretty good, actually. I may hit 1 or 2 of them, but they all look pretty good on the underside. Right amount of solder on all of them. I see little creases at the bottom of a couple of them, though. I'm going to reheat. Well, now I've put the PC board back in, put the connector back together. Actually took it apart again because I forgot to put the bolts tight on the IC before I put a plug in it, so getting ahead of myself. Undoing it again, got the bolts tight. Whole reason, in effect, I took the board off. And then I was thinking, well, you know, that one speaker's obviously blowing. I hit it one way with power, I get a pulse. I hit the other way with power, and it does like a buzzer. And then it stopped doing anything at all, so I took it apart. It's like a mini air suspension speaker, but unfortunately the suspension is toast. And that's how I found it. Suspension just hanging out here. Used to have a rubber roll. Oh, that's just toast. Real little sealed box though. Nice little tight sealed box for a little tight sealed driver in an attempt to get some fidelity out of a little tiny speaker. So that's why they used a little more power. This chip can probably do 3 watts a channel at least. These are these little mini air suspension speakers. So they tried. So at this point, I guess I'm not going to worry about, whether I only give my repair about 50% chance of working in terms of repairing the problem. The connections were all good at the back side of the board. They should all be plated through. Maybe the plating burnt through on one of them or something. I don't know. Maybe I fixed it. Maybe I didn't. We'll see. But now that I see the speakers are toast anyway, then using some other little mini, like a mini computer speaker or something like that, is starting to look more and more attractive. Otherwise, I gotta find some replacement for these little drivers, which isn't going to be impossible. I guess I should make some measurements of them. Maybe pull this one out. If I don't have anything else I can put in there temporarily, think about that. I'll probably just put this back in and see if it makes some noise, if I can get the chip working. Then maybe I'll think about buying drivers. And if the chip doesn't work and the drivers are shot, then maybe I should just look for a different solution, at least for the audio. Maybe I can still use the picture. And really, I've got two monitors at home that are on my computer that are kind of sad, out of date, not very good. Could use upgrading. So either one of those monitors could become the security monitor for up here. Well, I'm putting this thing back together. No real repair done to it. I don't think I fixed the audio. I'm either going to use it without audio or not at all. And with the camera, I can always put the audio into some other kind of unit, amplified speaker, whatever. So I'm not going to worry about this one. Maybe I'll come back to it later. If I do, I know I got to get speakers for it.